Hello and welcome to our podcast. I'm Dani.
Thanks very much.
It's
Hi,
a pleasure
Danny.
to have you here, Peter.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, it's just to introduce you to everyone listening. We're talking today with Peter Learwood, who is the director of Better Planet Education. If you haven't heard of it yet, they aim to encourage young people's understanding of the environment and the need for sustainability. Before we begin, remember to press subscribe on YouTube or in your podcast app, right? Now, let's talk about Better Planet Education, Peter. What inspired the founding? And I know that you've been moving, let's say, shifting from one phase to the other right now. So let's talk a little bit about this changes that you guys are making and about history. So what motivated it and how it started and what's going on right now?
Okay, well, it actually started quite a long time ago now. In 1982 was when the organization was originally founded, but at that point it was called the Young People's Trust for Endangered Species. Over the years, the name changed. It became the Young People's Trust for the Environment and Nature Conservation. I can't remember when exactly, but that was a name that was chosen by a committee. And it was really, really long and really complicated. And so in 2013, we became a charitable incorporated organization. It's just a different sort of charity. And we cut the name down to being Young People's Trust for the Environment at that point. And just very recently, we've made the change again to Better Planet Education, which we think really expresses what we do better than anything we've managed before in terms of names. But in terms of what we actually do, it's been broadly quite similar right the way through. It's basically providing free environmental education services to schools, to young people across the UK. And because we're now online, we actually have quite a global audience for the website as well. But it's all sorts of stuff that can be used by schools, by teachers, by individual young people, and we try and engage with as many individual young people as possible as well, though we are actually quite a small organization. So most of the stuff we do tends to be at a sort of school level.
Well, I think it's so incredible that you guys are able to engage young people from, it's been a long journey, right? And I think I was mentioning this. I love working with kids. I think it's awesome, but to engage children and teenagers, sometimes it's a challenging task, I would say. So I would like to learn more about this, especially now because we have like technologies and all of these assets that we can use in our benefits to do that. So how are you guys have been working with this and working these teams with them?
Yeah, we've been using the technology, I guess, for a while now in terms of things like the talks that we do in schools. They used to be only provided within kind of a 30-mile radius of where I live. But now, thanks to the wonders of Zoom and all the other things as well that you can use, I often turn up at schools on the other side of the UK when I'm actually still sitting in this room. And schools are really well adapted now to the idea of someone dropping in on a screen to talk to their students rather than having to be actually physically there. That's made a massive difference to our sort of reach in terms of where we can be semi face to face with groups of young people. So that's really helped, I guess, with that sort of level of engagement. But we decided quite a few years ago now, probably sort of around the time of the financial crisis, 2008, and then the next couple of years, we realized that funding wasn't going to be all that abundant, shall we say. But we wanted to have an aim of maximizing the reach that we could achieve using really quite minimal resources on the whole. And so the website got developed more. And we've gone through various iterations of the website. The last one was 2015. There's a brand new shiny one that's just been launched, which is really cool. And I'm really excited about that. But it's provided a really sort of large reach for an organization that has a really small team of people working for it. So, because basically there's me and there's one other, and that is the entire staff of Better Planet Education.
It is so amazing that you guys are being able to do that with such short staff because you have a lot of content and you have a lot of ways to reach out to these kids. This is super, super good. And thinking about like this is one other point that I tend to think that what is the line that you're kind of pursuing here? Because when we talk about understanding the environment, we could be talking about anything, like many, many things. We could be talking about preservation, we could be talking about water resources, about the ecosystems that you guys have there close to you. So what is your approach in the sense of this these themes, these great areas? Do you try to cover as much ground as you can, or you try to focus on something that could be a little more maybe closer to what the kids experience in their daily life?
Think it's a mixture. We do try and cover as many aspects as we possibly can, and there's a really broad range. On our website, there's 38 different downloadable lesson plan suites that teachers can access on all kinds of different topics. So that's, it's some on animal species. There's a lot on different issues as well. And we tend to focus on the issues that are most popular in schools because that makes the most sense in terms of being able to maximize your reach. So at the moment, things like climate change are becoming really, really important. It's previously been things like plastics or rainforests, sustainability. Yeah, water comes into it as well. Pollution, recycling. There's all sorts of different topics that we cover, and they're all designed to work for young people. So I mean, and we adjust and adapt what we're talking about depending on the ages of those young people too, because we deliver talks for 5-year-olds, and we deliver talks for 18-year-olds, and there's quite a difference in what they can sort of understand and get from it. But it's I find that actually engaging young people on environmental issues isn't generally that hard. I guess when I started doing this, it was a really, really long time ago because I was 18 and I'd been working on a sort of voluntary basis for the charity during my summer holidays and stuff like that. And I'd actually take groups of kids out into the countryside to show them all sorts of stuff to do with the environment. Um, and it was then that I realized how much of a difference it made. These were residential trips. They were there for about a week. And during the course of that week, they got a terrific amount of sort of knowledge, but also that exposure to different areas of the environment. Lots and lots of different habitats, lots of different ecosystems. And it was inspiring to me to see the kind of difference that it could make to those young people. That you saw how they changed during the course of the week. Attitudes changed towards the environment. And that was something that was, a really positive thing as far as I was concerned. And I was thinking, yeah, this does actually make a difference. And so, I went off and did a degree at university and everything. And I ended up joining the charity the day after I finished my final exam. Which was back in 1993. Whew. And so I've been working for it ever since. But it was that first, those first residential trips that I did with groups of kids from age 18 through to sort of 21 or something that really sort of engendered in me that thought that, yeah, this is something that is important to me. It's something that I want to share with others, and I think it can make a difference to a lot of young people, some of whom are now quite old people, actually. But
That could be like a testament against me because I'm not like much younger than that. So yeah. Oh, but thank you for sharing this. I think it's such a beautiful
it's okay.
story because you've been engaged for basically your whole life with this,
Yeah,
right?
pretty much
It's
adult life,
something,
anyway. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I think it's such conscious choice that came from being deeply moved from what you
Mhm.
saw in the relation with this kid. So if we need to know, oh, does it work? Like, does it have an actual impact? Absolutely. And I think it goes both ways as you were
Yeah, yeah.
saying. So it's amazing. And I think one other important point, especially if we think from the changes that you yourself might have seen from the first year, like I'm gonna say 1993
Yeah.
until now, a lot has changed, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we are discussing more, we are seeing more, feeling more the damages that we have
Mm.
caused. And I think that these younger generations, they are dealing with something that maybe our and older generations might not. That is this environmental anxiety.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
yeah.
are you seeing this too? How are you able to help them out with this? Do you think that knowing more, being more educated about it, could be a way to, overcome this anxieties? What do you see?
Yeah, it's kind of a mixture because yes, knowledge is a really important and empowering thing, and it's much better, I think, to know what you're up against rather than to be afraid of something that you're not quite sure about. So, being able to communicate sensibly to young people the issues around, say, climate change and how that's going to affect them in the future, how it's already, I think we've seen the fairly dramatic effects of climate change already around the world. I mean, here in the UK, I guess we've been relatively lucky, and we've been spared some of the worst impacts so far. Though that said, I think we've had about the wettest 6 months that I can remember ever. It's just been rain after rain after rain all the time, and you really notice the difference, I think, as well with the kind of rain that you get now. It's sort of downpours. We don't get the sort of traditional UK drizzle so much anymore. But for young people growing up who haven't known anything different, I think it's really important that they understand how climate change is impacting our environment already, but also what's going to happen in the future. And the really empowering part is knowing that we actually have the tools available to help. We can actually stop this. It requires quite a lot of collective will, which doesn't necessarily exist quite yet, I don't think. I mean, we've got that knowledge now for sure. People know about the fact that the climate is changing. They know that that's having some serious and detrimental impacts around the globe. Where we're kind of failing a bit at the moment is on actually properly addressing the issues and thinking, we've got to make really big changes to the way our lives are organized, to the way our society works. It's serious, big stuff. And with older groups of young people, so the teenagers, I will tend to try to incorporate that into something that I'm talking to them about, because the more young people who realize that we need some sort of a societal shift for the future, the more likely it is that that shift will actually happen. I mean, I'm not thinking with any of these young people, that this is something that's going to happen instantly. We're again looking probably a decade at least into the future in terms of when society starts to do things differently. But we've got to realize that, the way capitalism works at the moment, it's not working for the planet. And at some point, we have to recognize that the planet actually is a bit more important because it's the thing that everyone relies on. And if you wreck the planet, what have you got left?
Oh,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
think helping young people to understand that and to realize that there are already lots of things that they can do that can make a difference. And the other big thing is, as I say, to let them know that the solutions are already there. It doesn't mean that climate change is going to stop. Climate change is going to carry on probably for the rest of their lives. And of course, I mean, the climate has been changing forever, but it's just happening much, much more rapidly at the moment. But we know why it's happening now. We know we could make the difference. We've just got to actually get the world's governments to agree to do something properly to make that difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And thinking on all of this that you said, it makes uh, a really massive impact when we talk about this with teenagers. I'd say like
Mm.
16 to 18, because when we think about it, in this decade, it would be their moment to be the buyers. They will have
Yeah,
economic power. They will already be voting. So they are making the choices like for this
exactly.
this society. So it is really to shift the base of it, right? You're shifting the way people
Yeah,
are getting into, I would say maybe civic life. I don't know if that's the best
yeah,
word,
yeah.
but
I mean,
society life.
our whole premise has always been that if you catch the young people while they're young and you tell them about the things that need to be done, and how they can act to make things better, then they remember those things. And I'm not saying that they all necessarily think, oh, right, so I'm going to help the environment now for the rest of my life. But there are a decent number of them who do make conscious decisions to make the world a better place, not just for them, but for their children and children of the future as well. And I think that's a really important and powerful thing that we can do, is that we can help young people to realize in all sorts of different ways how they can help the planet and how they can make it a better place for the future. It's kind of a selfish thing as well because it makes it better for them. But it's also, it's much, much bigger than that too.
Yeah, but I think it has to be selfish in some level, right? I think
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think in the end of the day, we are
it's
moved by our own individual choices, right? Our own individual needs. So it has to be
absolutely, yeah, and humanity, I think, tends to react when it absolutely has to things. When a crisis is punching you in the face as humankind, that's when you actually do something about it. Which is why I think the world united so brilliantly around COVID, and did an amazing job there. Um, but climate change is kind of it's not quite as as frightening or as extreme in some ways, in that it's not quite punching us in the face yet. But at some point soon, if we don't really take action, we're going to be in that state. And unfortunately, it's not going to be a quick fix. So the more we take action now, the better it will be in the future.
absolutely, absolutely. And thinking about these hard bits, of life, I would like to know, Peter, what are the main challenges that you face? You said that you have a very lean structure to operate, and you mentioned funding, but are there other things that you feel like on your daily life as an organization sometimes get in the way?
I mean, obviously, there's a lot of admin and stuff that you have to do as well to run a charity, and that means that you can't spend all the time that you want just doing the core work of the charity. Um, so that's a challenge. I guess if we were bigger, then there'd be some people who could handle some of that admin. But the reality is, it's mostly most things are me, and so that is a challenge, definitely. Having said that, it's not like I don't have help. Obviously, we've got one other member of the staff team for a start, which is brilliant. But then we've got a really supportive group of trustees, and we also have young trustees. So these are young people aged between 16 and 25 who have actually come forward. They volunteered as people who are really interested in environmental issues. They want to do something to help to spread the message. And so they actually support us quite a lot in terms of providing content for our social media, for example, and also just advising me and the board of grown-up trustees, the adults, on the best ways that we can engage with young people. So looking at the ideas that are really bothering young people, how we could help to address that, and the best ways to communicate those things as well to groups of young people. So our young trustees are quite an important new feature of the charity. They've been around, I guess, it was 2013 we had our first young trustees. So they've been around for a bit, but we're really developing the board now. We've currently got 13 young trustees for the charity. I reckon we could probably fit a couple more onto that board. So if anyone's interested, you have to live in the UK at the moment, so that's the only thing. But other than that, if you're interested, there's an online application form that you can fill in. It's really quick and simple to do.
That's amazing, and I'm glad to hear that the number is this great
Yeah,
because it really is something, and to have like their peers talking, amongst them is something different, I would say. Uh,
yeah,
Peter, we'll make sure to add the link to your page on the description of this episode so people can
brilliant.
easily get access to it and can get in touch. And considering this and the volunteering needs that you just mentioned, for everyone listening right now, what would be the best maybe other ways to help you guys keep moving forward with this?
Okay, well, I mean, one of the big challenges always, I'm afraid, is funding, and I know that's boring, but it is. We're small. We're small because we have to be, because we can't be any bigger because there isn't enough money. And if there were more funding, undoubtedly we'd be able to do more, and we can do so at a sort of very low cost with really good value for money. I think we deliver masses on what we have. For example, looking at the website, we get about 1.2 million visitors to the website every year at the moment, which, okay, and the grand scale of things, it's not that big, but when you consider there's 1.6 or 7 of us actually working for the charity, it becomes a much, much bigger number, and in terms of the lesson plans that we have downloaded, we get maybe, I don't know, 100,000 or so downloaded a year. We don't know how many of them actually get used at the moment, which is something that our new website's really going to help us with. So I'm looking forward to actually receiving feedback from teachers, and hopefully that's going to happen more and more. But if you were to say theoretically that, you had, say, 30 children receiving one of those lessons, and you multiply that by the 100,000, then you get to 3 million more young people who've maybe got that reach as well from us. So yeah, the obviously financial support of any kind is always really welcome. It can be really small, and we will guarantee to do as much as we can with it. It's easy to donate online by the website as well. But support from larger organizations, so from companies and from grant making trusts, is something that is also really important to us, because that's really what keeps us going. The large amounts of money always come from those kinds of organizations. And again, we can do an awful lot with that money for them.
Thank you so much, Peter, for joining us today. I loved this conversation, and I do have help that people get engaged with you guys and help you moving forward.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure. And for everyone listening also, thank you so much for staying with us for this more episode. And remember, if you liked it, press subscribe on YouTube or in your podcast app. Share this episode with your friends, because that shows the algorithms that this is an important conversation and more people can learn about the importance of the Better Planet education. Check their page, help out if you can, and I see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks.